All right. Good morning, everyone. What a nice way to start the morning with getting to see that video and hearing Bridget and Sam and Flo's story. So I'm Charlene Son Rigby. I am the president and co-founder of the STXBP1 Foundation. I'm also mom to Juno, who some of you probably saw running around last night, and Juno just turned 13. Let me hopefully get some slides going here. There we go. I think, this is Mark's presentation. There's another presentation that's called Kickoff. Thanks, Zach. So I'll just start talking, and hopefully we'll get just let me know when the slides are up. So Juno was diagnosed with STXBP1 when she was 3.5 years old, and this was after us really searching for what was going on with Juno for the first 3.5 years of her life. When we got the diagnosis, which feels so long ago, it was in 2016, we were very, very lucky that we found this small but mighty community and 5 other families who started the STXBP1 Foundation with us. Many of you know me and know Juno's story. She is, thank you. So she is the reason why I'm here, and I am so proud of Juno. As Bridget said, our kids teach us so much. And she has taught me so many things, including patience, which I used to call a virtue for others. But I am also so proud of her milestones, her inch stones. So Juno is 13, as I said, and it was just 2 weeks ago that my husband and I saw her getting on the bus by herself for the first time. She usually clings to the person who is taking her on the bus and will hold them, and we have to lead her. And for the first time, she just went up on the stairs by herself, went to her seat, and sat herself down. And it was a beautiful moment, and I've been excited to see her doing that every day. So, but frankly, there are many days that can be incredibly challenging. We had a 5-hour flight coming out here from San Francisco, and it was frankly the worst plane ride I have ever had with Juno. I lost a lot of hair, and we were counting every minute of the flight. But then there are really these beautiful moments where her hugs mean everything. Thank goodness. So there are a lot of beautiful moments where Juno's hug really does mean everything. She leans in with her head. She doesn't use arms. And she may try to do this to you this weekend, and so don't be alarmed. She is trying to hug you. Her growing communication on her AAC device, her talker, just continues to excite me. There are times, really when life is beautiful. And there are also times when life is completely out of control. This is Juno trying to abscond after she has grabbed handfuls of blackberries from a blackberry bush. But it is still she is still such an amazing person. She is worth fighting for. All of our STXers are worth fighting for. This is our community from Summit last year when we were in Colorado, and I am very excited for the next 2 days. Our previous 3-year plan was called Fast Forward, and we aptly took that and added the word impact. So as Melissa said, our new 3-year plan is Fast Forward to Impact. And here is what Fast Forward looks like in 2026. more than 170 patients seen in our STAR natural history study, more than $3.8 million in grants and research funding awarded to date by the foundation, and that is joined by funding from Lulu's crew and the $1 Million Bike Ride. 18 therapies in development in the pipeline, and 1,573 STXers in the global census that we just published this week. The ESCO natural history study in Europe has launched, and there are now 21 patients who have been seen, and this is across 8 countries. This is Fast Forward to Impact, powered by our community's hope. It is a really exciting time. I want to give a therapy pipeline update just to get your juices flowing. So you may remember some of these slides from before. I do this each year. So this is what the STXBP1 therapy pipeline looked like in 2019. Pretty empty. A single potential therapy was in development, had been identified, called phenylbutyrate. Some of you may know it as Ravicti, and it had been identified by Jacqueline Barret's lab at Weill Cornell as a potential therapy. And Lulu's crew and Clara Inspired partnered with the foundation to get a clinical trial off the ground. This was the first clinical trial for STXBP1, and it launched in 2021. So in 2023, we had 10 therapies in pipeline. This was a big growth from 2019 in just a little under 4 years. So now let's talk about 2025, last year. Walking into Summit, the Capsida gene therapy trial was about to open, and our community was eagerly awaiting this trial and the promise that it held for our children and our families. Despite the extensive safety testing prior to the clinical trial, the first patient in the Capsida trial died. Capsida has now terminated this trial and closed their STXBP1 program. This was devastating for the family of the STXer, our first patient, and it was devastating for our community. I want to take a moment to remind you all of the call to action that the patient family shared with us. The best thing, the best way for everyone to honor our child's legacy is to keep fighting for our STXers, pushing the science ahead for today, for tomorrow, while meeting the challenges our children face today. And looking more broadly, we need to honor the lives of the other STXers we've lost this year and in years past. So our community has gone through mourning these last 9 months since last September, and I've had many families ask me, what do we do now? How do we move forward? Because there was so much hope attached to this first gene therapy trial in STXBP1. And I want to assure you, there is reason to hope. The Capsida gene therapy trial was only one of the therapies in development for STXBP1. And in fact, as you can see on this slide, there are over 18 therapies currently in development, and these have not popped up overnight. These have been developing in the background, over multiple years. And what you can see is that it's really across multiple types of treatments: gene therapies, RNA therapies or ASOs, and small molecules. And the key thing for us, what we track, is that we want these therapies to go to the right, from discovery to preclinical to clinical trials, and then to approved. And I want to point out a couple of notable things here. First of all, we have 2 clinical trials that are new, that are on the chart. The first is Beta NMM, which is being worked on by Rafa's Moonshot. Sagi received the award for innovative research last night. He is Rafa's dad. And Beta NMN was identified through a drug screen, and a related compound is being investigated currently for ALS. So we are excited about this trial launching. And there is a gene therapy in trials in China from a Chinese biotech company called Shenzhen. It's early stage, it just opened this spring. They have treated children. We are actively working to learn more. In fact, Sagi, Jim Goss, our scientific director, and I are planning a trip to China this fall to learn more. We're engaging actively with the researchers and connecting with our amazing families in China. Now I'm going to call your attention to preclinical, the column just to the left of the clinical trials. We have 2 gene therapies in preclinical development, and one of them is in late preclinical, which means that it's getting very close to clinical trials. We'll hear from Bev Davidson today from the University of Pennsylvania about her lab's work. And for both of these, if the science looks good, these should advance to clinical trials. In ASOs, we have multiple teams that are working. Sorry, I need to go forward. Here. This is 2026. Sorry about that. ASOs, we have multiple teams that are working on ASOs. Luis Williams from Quiver will give a talk today about their ASO program. So last summer, the foundation also provided initial funding for a gene therapy at SUNY Buffalo and a CRISPR activation therapy, another type of genetic therapy, at the University of California, Davis. These have all been progressing through discovery, and we'll hear updates on these today. And then there are also clinical trials, late-stage clinical trials for small molecules from Lundbeck and Praxis. These are clinical trials that are focused on addressing seizures, and we'll hear from the researchers on these teams today. These new therapies in development are a diversified portfolio of medicines, and I want to emphasize this. We are not focused on a single therapy. We are focused on multiple shots on goal. And we're really trying to build a portfolio. I think it's great to think, actually, and talk about multiple shots on goal, given that many of us have been binge watching the World Cup. So this is what we are doing. We are working to have multiple shots on goal because it ensures that we will have therapies for our community in the end, therapies for all of our patients and all of our kids. Our foundation is committed to supporting advance of these therapies, following strong science with rigorous safety testing, and pursuing with urgency, with relentless urgency. I hope you see my excitement about the progress and momentum, and with this momentum, we will continue to fast forward with impact. Now, I'd like to pass the ball to Mark Quinlan, our Executive Director.
All right, good morning, everyone, and I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to see all of you today. I think Charlene did a great job of teeing us up this morning, and what she did was show the momentum around STXBP1, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about our new strategic plan that Charlene mentioned. And I'm going to continue the World Cup analogy, because I believe that a good soccer team is similar to how we work as a foundation. We have a shared goal, there's defined roles, there's great preparation, and we have the ability to adjust when we need to. I think on your tables there's a one-sheeter of our strategic plan. I don't know if we have copies for everybody, but I think we try to spread it out a little bit. If you do want to see the whole strategic plan, please go to our website where it's there listed. I know strategic plans can be a little dense and boring, but it really lays out what our priorities are as a foundation. And what I wanted to share first was kind of our targets. We have two goals, really. One is a long-term goal, a 10-year goal of establishing 5 FDA EMA-approved disease-modifying therapies. That's a big goal, but our board of directors feels like this is something that is doable if we work hard and work hard together. We also have an interim goal that we want to accomplish in the next 3 years, and that's to enable up to 3 new STXBP1 focused clinical trials. What we're trying to do is build the conditions that make these trials possible. So how do we do that? Well, first, it takes a team. Now, the families are not responsible for us winning this game, but what the families are the why the team exists, and they help define what are meaningful outcomes. Now, the other players on the team are, of course, researchers, funders, clinicians, and clinical sites, biopharma companies, and regulators. The foundation's role is to not take every shot on goal, but we're to help the whole STXBP1 team play well together. So we do that by coordinating, connecting, preparing, and again, adapting when we need to. So one of the ways that we try to help move therapies forward that Charlene shared with us is by de-risking them. What de-risking means is removing the obstacles between what is a good idea and an actual trial. And so there's a number of processes that we look at closely when therapies are advancing. Those include the science and safety of the therapy. Can we measure it and collect data? Are the clinical sites ready for it? And are the families ready for trials? And then also, of course, we need partners and funding to push things forward. If we can remove all those obstacles, we have a better chance of them reaching families. So one of the tools that we need is to build evidence for therapies. And that's where our natural history studies come into play. So like Charlene mentioned, I think many of you are aware of the STAR natural history study in the United States. I just got some numbers yesterday. I think we have 183 patients in the STAR natural history study right now, which is fantastic. And then as Charlene mentioned, our European colleagues are running a study through ESCO, and they are just getting going, and they have another 21 patients enrolled. Now, those two studies are working together to try and coordinate data and make sure that we can use data from both the other side of the pond and here in the United States. What the natural history study does is it provides clinical data, it helps us identify biomarkers and endpoints, and it helps us get ready for regulatory agencies. So it's not separate from therapy development. And what I think a natural history study really does is it helps us know what would have happened without treatments to an STXBP1 patient. So another thing we need to do is prepare for clinical trials. And there's kind of two groups that we try to help get prepared. First is the families. We want to always provide clear education to the families about what trials entail, discuss eligibility, because it does vary from trial to trial, build trial checklists so families know what to expect if they enter a trial, and then support. We know it's difficult to travel, as Charlene mentioned, with an STX here, for both practical and logistical reasons, but also financial reasons. We get that. And so the foundation is committed to continuing to provide travel assistance when we can for families to help you get to clinic sites. And the whole goal is to give you guys informed choices. For me, trial readiness for families means we're providing information and options. We never want to feel like you're being pressured to be in a trial. We want you to be able to get the information you need to make a choice, whether this is appropriate for your family or not. On the clinic side, we have well-established clinics right now, which is fantastic. And what we look for in those clinics is experienced teams, consistent assessments, they have great data standards, they have recruitment systems in place to get families into trials, and they have solid trial coordination. And I can tell you all of the centers that we are currently working with have these things, but we always want to make sure that we can get better if possible. So how, Charlene showed you the list of 17 therapies that are kind of in the process. So how do we choose therapies, and what is the process for trying to advance them? I think Charlene articulated really well that good teams have multiple ways to create opportunities. And so, like she said, we're looking at therapies in gene therapy, RNA approaches, small molecules, protein pathway targets, and other novel technologies. And each of those therapies, we study closely and review them. And that's done through our scientific advisory board, other scientists, and just to make sure that we're right on the right path. And then we try to find the programs that are ready to advance and push those forward if we can. So how do we help the strongest programs advance? It's kind of a milestone process for programs. They have to go through discovery, validation, translational development, IND enabling stuff, and finally clinical readiness. Now each of these programs, they're sort of go, no-go questions that need to be asked as they work through the process. And that can lead to decisions that need to be made. So often, it's just continuing the program. Sometimes it has to be redirected or change direction a little bit. Sometimes you have to bring a partner into one of the programs to help it move forward. And then there's occasions where you have to pause or stop the program. And that can be for a variety of reasons. It could be scientific reasons or even business decisions from biopharma companies. So we always try to analyze each of our programs as they're working through this process, again, to try to push forward those strongest programs. So in our strategic plan, one of the exciting things that we're trying to move forward is what we're calling our STXBP1 Impact Fund. Now the Impact Fund, initially what we're trying to achieve is to raise $3 to $5 million that we can use for early stage therapeutics and tools to move them forward. Our goal is to try to invest in these early stage therapeutics, maybe 1 to 3 of them by the end of 2028. We do have some ideas right now that we're working on. Already this morning I had a meeting about that. And I think it's an exciting opportunity for us if we can get this up and running. And another real exciting thing about the STXBP1 Impact Fund is that these are structured in a way that if there is returns on the therapy once they reach market, the foundation will get some of that money that we can then reinvest into further STXBP1 research. It's complicated. It takes disciplined governance and oversight, but we think we can get those pieces in place to make this happen. We have an incredible community with a lot of expertise, and Charlene and I spend a lot of time tapping into that. And so if you're familiar with this type of structure, please come talk to me, because I would love to have a conversation. The other thing we need to build our impact fund is biopharma partnerships. And so we work hard on working with biopharma partners. We have several sponsors of this event. There's biopharma people in the room right now. And we try to build kind of that cohort of biopharma companies that we can work closely with on STXBP1. And so we try to get them regulatory ready, so we provide summaries if we can. Again, we give them access to our scientific advisory board and our scientific experts. We'll create dashboards to show them how things are going and help them with IND preparation if it's appropriate. So those things combined, I think, the partnerships and catalytic capital, give the STXBP1 Foundation more ways to keep promising programs moving forward. So, what does progress look like? What do we want to achieve over the next 3 years? This is kind of our scoreboard that we have put together. We want STAR to sustain and strengthen into 2028. We want to continue to build evidence and advance biomarker and endpoints. We want to continue to have family and sites trial ready, get more biopharma companies engaged, and we want to help those programs reach those key milestones that I mentioned. And again, we want to have up to 3 trials enabled by the end of 2028, the end of our current plan. So like every great team, we can't predict exactly how every play will unfold or which therapy will ultimately reach the goal. But we can build the strongest possible team by preparing carefully, learning from setbacks, and keeping every credible path moving forward. Families are at the heart of this work, and together with researchers, clinicians, companies, funders, and regulators, we are creating the conditions that give promising therapies the best possible chance to reach the people who need them. So thank you very much for being part of the team and for moving this mission forward with us. Okay, so now we're going to get into the scientific sessions of our day. This is kind of a short agenda of what we're looking at today. Yeah, and then tomorrow morning is going to be really focused on support sessions for the families. So I think you guys will find that it's going to be a full day. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be overwhelming. But just take a deep breath. Step outside into the smoke if you need to. But yeah, I hope you enjoy and can take it all in with us today. Melissa, did you have something?
Hey, just real quick, a couple things. I wanted to remind you guys we have a sibling activity room that the siblings are welcome to, and at 10 o'clock there's going to be a really fun activity starting in the sibling activity room. Also the family hospitality room you are welcome to use. But the last thing is research. Please, I encourage you throughout the day to go and have your blood drawn, and also CHOP has a research project where you will do a cheek swab. So I hope that families can participate in both of those at some point today. I believe the blood draws will also be tomorrow. So I encourage everybody to do those things. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, our first talk this morning is from Dr. Ingo Helbig from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Ingo is one of our clinical experts for sure in this field, and I know many of you know him, and he's going to give us a little update on the STXBP1 clinics.